us today. The message is this. They knew it back in the old days. Those people who were enslaved, they knew that we had to walk together. Walk together, children. Don't you get weary.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Amherst Area Gospel Choir, please let's give them another round of applause. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Sid Ferreira. I am part of the Coming Together group, one of the groups that are helping organize this. Again, thank you so much for being here. This is great to see everyone come out and support the event, in support of the community of Amherst. We all know why we're here, right? Yeah. There we go. We all know that we're living through some special times, some tumultuous times. And we all know that resistance is mandatory, right? We do not have the luxury of sitting back and allowed to see our country, our position in the world, see our politics go to waste. So resistance is going to be mandatory. Our community of Amherst and the surrounding areas expects us to put this resistance up. We have to do it. We have to engage. We have to participate. We have to resist. We have to let local leaders, state leaders, national leaders know that whatever is taking place in Washington is not accepted by us in the community of Amherst. And we all know that Amherst always has a voice in national politics. So why are we here? Today we're here to learn more about the implications of the new executive orders, which we know are coming fast and furious and keep changing by the minute. Hear from community members who are immediately affected, strategize how we can make Amherst a sanctuary community, pledge to resist any form of a Muslim registry, and plan how we can join together to keep our family, friends, and neighbors safe by creating a network aimed at protecting our community from unwanted incursions by ICE or any other government agencies.
Yes.
And we hope that we all stand, on these principles, and that you can encourage and recruit your neighbors, other folks from outside communities of Amherst, nationally, internationally, because we all stand together. Because we all have members of our communities that we know that are impacted by this. As an immigrant who came here about 38 years ago, jeez, that's a long time. And with my wife and my children and everyone else, it's my duty to stand up here and make sure that I resist these executive orders. Before we go on to the next part of the program, we have a large and diverse group of people who engaged in getting over 1,000 signatures on a petition that has been filed for an article in the spring town meeting for the warrant. So we would like to ask all of the folks who have participated, all the volunteers, everyone who made phone calls, who did posters, who were up front, who attended meetings, all the volunteers who helped put this program together and has been working on behalf of this resistance. Please stand up so you can be acknowledged. Come on, folks, don't be bashful. You know who you are. Thank you very much. We have a great program for you, and please engage. Right, Caroline? Yes. Thank you, Caroline Murray.
Thank you. This is amazing. I feel a little choked up. So we have a beautiful program that is an expression of our values as a community, but we need to start and be grounded in the problem and what's actually happening and what brought us here. So I'd like to ask Harris Freeman to come up and give us a little bit of an overview of what's happening legally.
Good afternoon, 413.
Hey!
How many people here? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, here now.
Okay. Hello, 413. I'll say it again. How many of you here have in one way or another been involved in some kind of protest against the Trump administration's immigration policies? Whoa! That's what you have to like about 413. Okay, so my job today is, in a very brief amount of time, to try to set the stage for you as to what the changing legal landscape is in the United States with regard to immigration policy. I'm going to focus on those changes that the Trump administration is putting into place regarding the interior, and not so much looking at the executive order that dealt with the Muslim ban. We have done a job of setting that one back. And as many commentators have noticed, we have not seen the purported replacement executive order for the one that was challenged and put in its place by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And that's a good sign for what we are all doing. Instead, I'd like to talk about Trump's executive order affecting deportations and sanctuary cities, and talk about what that order is doing and what we need to be on guard against and what we need to be organizing about and legislating about. First of all, the new executive order calls for a tripling of the number of officers available for immigration enforcement. They're talking about hiring 10,000 new officers for ICE. This is going to drastically expand what the government considers to be the priorities for who should be deported from the United States. And it's going to make it easier. The effort is to make it easier for the government to put aside due process when it comes to making determinations about whether someone is here without status and ought to be deported. The executive order is also, I think as everyone here knows, threatening to take funds away from our communities if we refuse to have our local police officers, our sheriffs and others, cooperate with ICE officers in promoting this kind of dragnet sweeping detention of people who are contributing to our communities. Let me see if I can try to detail some of this for you so you can get a sense of what we are facing. Under the Obama administration, there was a fairly focused and targeted effort at addressing deportations of immigrants in the United States. They were looking for people with aggravated felonies, significant misdemeanors, people who entered or re-entered without permission after January of 2014, people with gang-related convictions. Under the new executive order, all that is being put aside in favor of a much broader set of priorities. Anyone with a conviction who is an immigrant without documents is a priority. Anyone charged, even if not convicted, of a criminal offense, even when that charge has not been resolved in any way by the courts, is now a target for deportation. Anyone who commits acts that could be considered a chargeable offense. It includes anyone who entered without immigration documents and anyone who already has a final removal order in place. And as many of you know, there are many people who have final removal orders in place who have simply been reporting to the immigration courts routinely, going about their business, contributing to society, and taking care of their families. It includes anyone, and I'll quote this, who poses a risk to public safety or national security. The executive order, of course, does not define either. It includes anyone who has abused a public benefits program and anyone suspected of committing fraud or misrepresentation in their immigration case. Almost any removable immigrant may now be deported, and no one except DACA recipients are now immune from rapid removal. So the new priorities that the Trump administration is setting regarding immigration and who is to be targeted is the broad immigrant community that are doing nothing but contributing to our society, working hard, raising their families, and sending their kids to school. This, of course, is going to create a boatload of challenges that we need to organize to address. First of all, we now have limited prosecutorial discretion on the part of those who enforce the laws. There can no longer be prosecutorial discretion just to charge hardened criminals. They must look at the entire immigrant community as all subject to potential deportation by the increased number of ICE officers that they plan to hire. We will now see greater likelihoods of racial profiling to enforce these kinds of orders and other violations of civil rights. The problem here is that we now have the potential for large numbers of people to be subject to expedited removal, which removes a host of due process protections that allows people to raise asylum claims, that they were entitled to U visas and other means of staying in the United States and becoming lawful citizens here. We have a series of attacks that we are trying to address today, and I'll move on now, to figure out how we can come up with local policies that do not allow our local police forces to divert resources in a manner that stigmatizes people instead of protecting our communities. It should be known that despite this daunting list of changes that portend huge violations of civil rights, we are fighting back in the United States against this. There are big cities from San Francisco to cities here in Massachusetts that are already filing suit to challenge the mandate that local communities get involved in immigration enforcement, something that we have no interest in doing and we have no business doing. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court is getting ready to hear a case, Lund versus the Commonwealth, which will be addressing whether the courts have an obligation to comply with ICE detainer orders for people who have not been convicted of a crime and have no current criminal charges against them. This is an important case that our court will be addressing, and we hope they come down on our side. In the meantime, one of the best things we can do is to continue to look at the sanctuary city movement, look at the legislation we can put in place to protect our communities, and act together as cities, towns, and communities across the country who are all saying no to participating in this violation of civil rights that the new executive order represents. So thank you.
So just to touch upon sort of what Harris just said, conceptually, what does this look like in reality? What does living in an authoritarian state actually look like? I want to share with you a couple of things that have happened this week. On February 22nd, some of you may have seen in the news, Customs and Border Protection ordered 2 planes from San Francisco to JFK and demanded that every single person on the flight show their papers. That happened on February 26th. They also boarded buses in Seattle. Same thing. Every single person on that bus was ordered to show their papers before they could disembark. We believe that that's a trial balloon that they're putting out to see what the response will be. On February 28th, Romulo Avelica Gonzalez, a father of 4, who has lived here for 25 years, was arrested taking his 13-year-old to school in front of the child at the school. On February 22nd, Jose Escobar was arrested when he went to his annual ICE check-in. He was deported on March 2nd with an expedited removal to El Salvador, where he hasn't been in 16 years. Jose had a work permit. Sarah Beltran Hernandez crossed the border and was immediately detained in a private prison in November 2015. She has an asylum application pending, but she's been in jail for 450 days. She has a brain tumor, and she was brought to the hospital in shackles. After the doctor at the hospital said she was stable, they brought her back to the detention facility in shackles. She actually was released on $15,000 bond on March 2nd after the community rose up when they found out what was happening. I have a lot to tell you about her. Daniela Vargas, some of you may have heard about her. She was arrested Wednesday after speaking at a press conference. She is a young woman, she's 22 years old, she's an organizer and an activist, and she had DACA status, so she was a dreamer. Her DACA status expired. She had paid her $495 to renew it, and it's pending. ICE followed her from the press conference and arrested her in her car. She is facing expedited removal as well. A couple more. There was a homeless man leaving a church in the morning in Fairfax, Virginia. ICE was staking out the church. They arrested 8 of them. They've disappeared. No one in the community can find them. And on February 28th, some farm workers in Oregon were going to the forest where they prune trees. 2 van loads of men going to work were arrested. The organizers can't find them. So this is happening. That's what we need to know. Like, we are living in this moment right now. And we need to change the way that we're interacting with folks, right? And this is one of the first steps. So we have a three-pronged strategy, right? It's not just about mobilizing, it's also about strategy, and it's about organizing. So first, we're passing laws. We have our local bylaw, we have a state law, and we need to work together to make sure that these policies that protect our neighbors, as Harris mentioned, get passed. At the same time, we need to resist, and that means resisting with our bodies if ICE does come to town, getting in their way. But it also means reevaluating what compliance means. And we all need to decide what we can and can't do in that moment. So if you're on a plane and they say, show me your papers, what will you do?
Show me the money.
We have to prepare, though, and train and be ready in our mind and our spirit to be able to resist. And then we also here need to be realistic about creating sanctuary spaces, whether those are churches or those are homes or schools. Our town is ahead of the curve in getting ready for what's happening, and I'm so grateful to be in community with all of you. And now we're going to hear from some of our neighbors, and we'll continue getting to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol. I'm sorry about that. It's really sad about those cases we just heard. And, you know, that's not the America that I came to. Is this the America that we all want to live in? No. Okay. Is this the America we want to live in? No. Exactly. Right? No. No. Right? So we have to do something about it. And I'm so thankful, we are so thankful to see, you know, over 300 people in here. Because this is the start, as Caroline says, of a movement. Right? This does not end today. It continues. We will continue to resist until these executive orders and any other law that is going to affect our community, our state, our nation are abolished. Right? Yeah. Thank you. Next, we're going to hear some testimonies from some of our neighbors. All right. If I could have all of the folks who will be doing the testimony come up, and I will introduce them, just a little something about them, because they have to tell their story. It's not my job to tell their story. We have Mr. Basilius Zino. He's a Syrian archaeologist pursuing a doctorate in political science at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. He is a pending asylee since July 2013.
First of all, thank you all for being here. The mere presence and seeing all these faces is a source of resistance and a source of power, regardless of the xenophobic rhetoric that has been disseminated over the last 2 or 3 years. I want to start. I want to start with debunking a myth that everything was okay and great until President Trump became a president. I agree with President Trump that the immigration system is broken, but our interpretation is absolutely different. I sought asylum in July 2013, and this is a whole life. 4 years pending asylum. When you are having your dreams about being deported to Syria again, like, this is something that is invisible. We are already banned. Me and my wife, she's here. When we came, I lost my PhD in archaeology back in Syria, and I worked in a restaurant, and then I decided, no, I want to survive this war in Syria. I'm not going to be a victim. So I started from scratch. I got my master's degree in political science, and now I'm a second-year PhD student here at UMass. While my education status has been changed, my status as nobody never been changed. Because as a pending asylee, you are a prisoner. You can't leave. No one can visit you. My mom and my mother-in-law, both of them applied for visa to attend our ceremony at Ohio University. They hold the USCIS, hold the application for a month, and then right the day before the ceremony, they denied their application. So which is, a systematic torture, which didn't start today. So I was asking myself, sometimes I regret I sought asylum here, to be honest, because basically, sometimes you wish you are a prisoner, because at least you can see the walls, you can touch them. You know when is the day that you will be executed, or you will be, okay, you will end your service in prison or whatever. For us, it's uncertain. So we decided, and we have to live with, it's a mechanism that refugees and asylum develop, that we have no future. So we have to live with the present. That is, the present is our life. And we can't be passive. We have to resist. So when President Trump got elected, fortunately enough for most of you, you don't know how it means to be living under authoritarian regime. So fear is part and parcel of our identity. And that's what allows us to survive the war. And it's unfortunate to see that we thought that when we started to construct this sense of community and home again in exile, we are confronted with fear again. The attacks on Jews, Latino, African Americans, Arabs, and immigrants since the election have been increased. When you are afraid of speaking Arabic with your wife at the airport, you know what's the meaning of fear at that point. When you are scared to discuss with honesty any debate, or having any debate with your students, because some students have been boldened and they are fine with any racist comment like now. They have been, because they see that at the level of politics. I am not going to go through a lot, but I would say that I wrote something the moment when President Trump was elected. As a Syrian in the US, I don't know where else to go. I don't even have the luxury to make a joke about moving to Canada. Fear was my past. Fear is my present. Fear is becoming my daily companion, my identity, and my face. So, I thought like, okay, let's finish this degree, but now I'm not certain like whether I can, like I'm starting to consider Canada or any other country to finish my PhD, and I'm tired of starting again from scratch. But something specific that showed me the meaning of borders. When my brother was banned from traveling, he was supposed to join his wife, who is a refugee in California. My nephew was born in California. My brother only met his kid once when my nephew was 13 months. So he was the dad behind the Skype call. So we lived, when you watch the news and suddenly you see your brother crying at the airport like a mad dog, and he's being humiliated. He was picked up just because he is holding a Syrian passport. When you call your parents to assure them who are trapped in Damascus, don't worry, I'm controlling that. Everything will be fine. And they are crying, and you can't cross the border. You have nothing. You are unrecognized. You can't. However, I had two options, and really in a few minutes, either to surrender and to cry. I cried, of course, or to resist. I chose the other pathway, because this is the dire lesson that I learned through my experience with the Syrian war. So I decided to resist, and we started to mobilize the community. When I saw the light at the airport with people just occupying all these airports, I had the hope again. And I said, no, that can be crystallized into politics. Senator Kamala Harris actually stepped in and saved my family, and she succeeded in bringing my brother back again here. But my nephew was traumatized. Like everything, and we live in this fear over and over and over. But I have to acknowledge at the same time, Congressman McGovern and Keith, I was in contact with him for over the last 1 year, and they were placing a congressional inquiry because the USCIS never responded to our calls. So I'm indebted to all your efforts. and also Senator Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. So, however, there is a difference between having all this angriness inside us, emotions, sadness, or to move this power and have them into politics, channel them into politics. And that's what happened. When I saw the executive order, the first draft and the actual one blocked, I believe that this is what I love in America. This is what is possible. When you transform the power, don't be passive. Don't just give up. You have two options in life, either to be a survivor or a victim. I don't blame the victims at all, because we have, as a human, we have limitations. Fear is part of our instinct that saved the humanity over history. However, we learned that fear could be constructed through institutions and through other people who are either misinformed or simply racist. However, this fear also can mobilize other people to resist. I believe in resistance because I saw the outcome, and this outcome saved my family to be here. In this day, I'm a Latino, I'm African American, I'm an Arab, I'm everyone who has been humiliated, but we still have our dignity inside us. So thank you for being here, and thank you for resistance, and thank you for your support.
Next, we're going to have Lynn Gang, who will come and speak with us. Lynn works with the Pioneer Valley Worker Center and is a worker owner of Battle Power. Mr. Lynn.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lin Gang. I'm an organizer of the Pioneer Valley Worker Center in Northampton. It's great to hear, see all the people show up. Where to start? At a dinner party, one of my friends asked me that most of the people are going low, and I'm the one not going high. And my answer is yes. I've been actually going low for over decades. I've been worried about being deported. And I'm done with it. I came here to the United States when I was 19, and I started working in a restaurant for 14 years. And I received $4 an hour on my first job. I worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. It's a typically restaurant job schedule. In about 13 and a half years, I don't receive minimum wage. I don't get overtime pay. And restaurant owner, when I calculate the money that restaurant owner steal from me, it was over $350,000. And the thing that kept me unspoken, not speaking up, because I'm fear that I don't have paper. I'm fear that the boss gonna talk to the IS or do something to me, threaten me. So that's the reason I didn't do anything, and that is why I keep staying low, and that's what I get, you know. And after I lost my job about 7 months ago, and that was the time I got involved with a worker center, and we actually launched a campaign called Wage Staff Ordinance in Northampton, and it passed. It had passed a few weeks ago. And I believe that if we united together, we can fight for that. And it became true. Besides the ways that we also doing a network, we're building a network called Sanctuary in the Street. It's a rapid response hotline, which we built to help undocumented immigrants to fight for the deportation, and welcome everybody to join the network. Yeah. I think that's what I want to share. I'm very, very nervous in front of you. I've been feel scared, feel worried that one day I might be deported, and for like over decades, over 10 years. And actually at this moment, I'm actually like, I feel the opposite way. I feel that I'm very, very grateful, very lucky that to live in this community, that all the people are standing up to support immigrants, regardless of their privilege. Thank you everyone for showing up. I'm really grateful that we live in this community and we help each other, support each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And I assure you that yes, we do have a great community here, and our community takes care of each other, and we will continue to do that. Next, we will have Ms. Farah Amin. Farah is a Bangladeshi American writer-editor who's been in Amherst for almost 7 years, so please welcome Ms. Farah.
So, I'm not a public speaker, and I'm really nervous to be up here, but I have something to say, and I'd like to thank Melissa and Andrew of Embrace Race for giving me the voice to say that on their website. And I'm just going to read a piece that I wrote for them. Because for the longest time, I've been struggling with what it means to be an immigrant. Muslim in Trump's America. I am an immigrant, a brown-skinned Muslim South Asian woman, a minority, a U.S. citizen. But I am an outsider. I've spent a large part of my life feeling this way. I was born in Pakistan to Bangladeshi parents. When I was 4, my father transferred to India for work, and then my family eventually relocated to Bangladesh when my father retired. I was 18 and angry with my parents. I didn't want to leave the country I called home. Now, I proudly say I'm Bangladeshi, but I've never felt I belonged in my country. I visit because my mother lives in Dhaka, and though I've been in the U.S. for almost 26 years, I don't feel American. I am accustomed to feeling like an outsider, but in the current political climate, I am more afraid here than I've ever been. I mostly enjoy the life I've made with my family in Amherst, but even here I feel like an outcast. I connect with individual friends over common interests, but I do not have a strong sense of community. The feeling that I'm outside looking in is constant. When my husband and I moved here from New York City 6 years ago with our then 9-month-old, I frequently was left out of mostly white mommy circles that dominate kid activity planning here. I would hear of playdates to which my daughter and I were not invited, or I would have a perfectly lovely conversation with someone at a party, then have the person act like we barely met somewhere else. My daughter gets this treatment too. I have watched little light-skinned girls turn their backs on my dark-skinned daughter in the sandbox. Probably not their fault. Children are sponges, behaviors are learned. I wasn't included in conversations with their mothers. This is my reality. My Irish-American husband gives us credibility in Caucasian circles. That makes me angry. Despite their politics, many mostly white progressive in this town talk about inclusion but don't practice it. My daughter is a lucky shade of cocoa brown, often darker than her African-American friends. She wishes she had lighter skin, no matter how often we tell her she is beautiful. This is not parental bias. She is a beautiful, dark-skinned, brave, determined Bangladeshi American. Our town is the only home she knows. She was born in a low-income neighborhood in Dhaka, lived on the streets for 2 months with her birth mother, and has been with us since she was 4 months old. In those early days here in the college town in USA, in Amherst, when she and my husband went to the grocery store, he'd often have people ask, "Where did you get her?" When my daughter was still a baby and we were new to this town, I joined a women's group that does amazing work. I survived my first year of parenthood and relocation because of the support I got from the women in the group. I wanted to give back and propose training to run a group for South Asian women. Many South Asian women in the area face community-based challenges constantly. Struggles with in-laws living with them, struggles with an unfamiliar language and culture, frustrations with acquaintances not understanding their traditions. I had navigated some similar issues in the US. Granted, I come from a much more liberal background, but cultural issues are common. Straddling two worlds, I was the perfect person to support these women, understand and give them space and reassure them, yes, your problems are normal and valid and time can help, or we as a community of South Asian women can help one another. At the time, my husband and I were unemployed. We had savings but no paychecks. I knew the organization offered scholarships to train women, but they refused my request. I assumed that with all its understanding of women's needs, the group did not think my proposal was important enough. Not long after, they asked to feature my daughter in a video because she was photogenic, beautiful, the unspoken request, diversity. I refused. I should have called them out for trying to use my child as a token, but I suspect they wouldn't have taken my point. Instead, I decided to walk away. I should have spoken up. I tried to let it go. Then a week after Trump was elected, I noticed someone from the group had posted on social media about standing in solidarity with our sisters in hijab. I could have created that safe space for them. Who are these people who can't see beyond their self-importance? I think about the last 6 years, how often, even when included, I have not felt embraced. I'm even more afraid now than I was post 9/11. I was in New York City when the planes hit the towers. I smelled burning bodies for days and watched my city and the world change. I had a woman wag an American flag in my face in my neighborhood. I was stopped in airport security lines and frisked. My bags opened and searched. I spent a few hours in a detention room at JFK. And a trip back from Dhaka, I will never forget the elderly South Asian lady in a sari, lying on a bench to which one of her ankles was chained. She could have been my mother. I stand out for my brown skin, my Muslim name. In the passport line, I stand out for my birthplace. But I embrace who I am. I'm not religious, but I proudly say I'm Muslim. My daughter is Muslim. My husband is proud to say he's married to a Bangladeshi Muslim woman. I worry about my daughter who struggles with her darkness, who often feels left out in a sea of white and light and medium brown kids. As she navigates school in Trump's America, will she equate her ethnicity with ostracism? Will unkind children make fun of her because of her color and name? How do I support her when I struggle every day with my own sense of self-worth? How do those of us who fear the next 4 years, will there be a Muslim registry to complement the travel ban of people from Muslim-majority countries? Deportations. Make our children feel safe, help them navigate this world. We need to build an inclusive community for our children and ourselves. We need to enable our kids to proudly proclaim their ethnicities and stand up for tolerance, equality, and respect. It's time to speak up. As Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much Thank you so much for your words. Only thing is, this is not Trump's America. This is our America. Trump is not going to claim this. We are claiming this. It's our America. Next, we're going to have Mr. Eduardo Samaniego, who's a student at Hampshire College, will come and join us and tell us about his experiences.
Good evening, everybody. Buenas tardes. My name is Eduardo Samaniego, and I am currently a sophomore at Hampshire College. I am also an undocumented student. Thanks to a few private donors, Hampshire was able to put a scholarship for students that are undocumented, and that's how I came to Hampshire College. I lived in Georgia for the majority of my time here in the United States. I still call Georgia my home. And unfortunately, because of their backtracking policies, I was unable to even apply to universities in the state of Georgia as a result of my undocumented status. That is the case of hundreds of thousands of undocumented students across the United States. And obviously, Massachusetts opened its doors for people like me to be able to have that opportunity. But it doesn't escape me for a second that there is thousands of students across the country who still wish to have that opportunity, who are much more deserving and who are much more intelligent than I am, yet I am the one standing here. So I want to tell you that for me, it is a very hard situation, this that we're on right now. Every day in the state of Georgia, the racism was very on the surface. It was out there. I could see it every day. I could hear it every day. But to actually come, to the United States and see that that was the reality of so many people here, I couldn't understand where the message of hope, of freedom, and liberty was coming from. And yet, slowly but surely, I realized where it was. Because, while there is always these negative policies and laws, such as HB 87 in the state of Georgia, SB 1070 in the state of Arizona, the overwhelming support across the country was always much larger than those policies. And I was able to see that. And so little by little, I could tell where this message was coming from, why I came here in the first place. And the reality is that I came here with a visa that eventually expired because I became homeless. And a pastor took me into his home, and he saw me graduating from high school. I graduated as the student body president. I graduated with honors. I graduated as president of the student government. I graduated as president of so many other colleges. Yet, because of my undocumented status, I couldn't even apply to my dream university in Georgia. And so I feel like that's my personal story. But at the same time, the people that is in my mind right now is the families that have been living here in the United States for decades. Mm-hmm. The people that pay taxes, the men and women of faith who pray every day at this church. The students that go to school and pledge allegiance to the United States flag every single morning. Yet, they can't call this country their home because they can be stripped away at any point. What sense does that make? And it doesn't make any sense. However, there is still hope. And I think the hope is to organize, to take action, and to know our history. Because, to be honest, I feel like we forget. We forget very easily where we've been, and then that's when we let things happen again and again and again. And to that, I feel like it's, to me, it's such an honor to be here. And it's also a very hard time because I realize that so many other people, are being torn apart right now. Families are being torn apart. As they drive their sons and daughters to school, they get taken away. Children go to school not knowing if their parents are going to be home when they get back. When people come out of their churches, they get taken away and put in jail. And I think that, that is just an atrocity to be doing to families that consider this country their only home, and especially to children who know this country as their only home. And so I think that while there is always the rhetoric, there is always the narratives, as we've seen before Trump, that are good towards immigrants, that consider men and women and children and students like myself, the action is lacking. There is not enough action. And I say that specifically to policy. There is not enough policies that are not just reactionary, but proactive in integrating our undocumented, citizens. And I say this because we forget that, right? That we're here today, and so we're here today to support what specifically? What do we want our state to do today? What is it that we're asking for, right? Is it, can we stop the federal government from coming into their homes and classrooms if they were to come for me? We can't at the end of the day. We can't do that for all of our citizens. Why? Because we failed them, and that's where we need to start. To realize that we have not been actively looking out for our neighbors. And then from there, we can build on that to make sure that we don't repeat the same thing again. So today, I see in the state of Georgia, it is a state with a supermajority Republican in the House and in the Senate, and a Republican governor. In the state of Massachusetts, we have a supermajority, we have a majority in the Senate and in the House that is Democrat. How long is it going to take us to pass the state tuition for undocumented students? How long? These are students that have been paying taxes. These are students that now have DACA, that drive, that are volunteers, that are, churchgoers, yet we don't have a state tuition in this state, that we are the most liberal state in the country. How is that possible? I just don't understand. So that is what I want everybody to go home and think about. Why is it that we don't have in-state tuition? Why is it that we don't have in-state financial aid for the students that pay taxes, that are members of our communities? That is the first step that we need to take to make sure that those of our residents that are getting every service that they are paying for, that they are deserving to get. And I just want to say that I never imagined that I would be here in Massachusetts for one. I was in 2013 advocating for immigration reform in Washington, D.C., and I met Congressman Jake McGovern there. He was giving a very passionate speech against cutting food stamps. And that's the first time I saw him. I didn't know him. I liked him, and I went up to him and I shook his hand. And that was the first time I knew of him. And I respected him from there on. Every time I go back again to DC, I see him doing his part. And I think that we need more people in office like him who are not compromising the lives of our neighbors. And I'd like to see him have a serious conversation. And I'd like to invite him right now to come and have a briefing on how can we pass in-state tuition for undocumented students. And, that will be a direct answer coming to the rhetoric coming from the White House. That will be a direct answer that is proactive and that is really, really deserving of applause. So thank you for giving me your time and have a good day.
Thank you, Eduardo. Next, we're going to have our last testimonial from someone who I've known since he was wee high. Yes, he's pretty tall now. You know, Mr. Marco Correa, who grew up in Amherst, Massachusetts, and is currently at Amherst, Massachusetts, is currently a student at Mass College of Art. So please welcome Marco.
My name is Marco Correa, and as Sid just said, I grew up right here in Amherst, Massachusetts. I came here in November 1999 at the age of 6 years old, and up until the beginning of the school year, when I was going to college, I've lived in Amherst ever since. Growing up here, I love to draw, which is why I'm going to school for art now. I was introduced to art here in Amherst, so thank you for that. I also love to play soccer, and I love being in the outdoors here during late springtime and summertime. You know, I grew up before kids had iPads and, you know, PlayStation 4s and this virtual reality. So I was out there in the real world, scraping my knees, riding the bike, you know, so when my family came over here, Cape Verde is a country that's had its independence for just a little over 40 years. I think maybe 41, 42 years. Things are still coming together, and there's still quite a bit of corruption. We were very poor when I was a little kid, and it was me and my two siblings, my older brother, my younger sister, my parents, and we were at a dead end. The way my dad explained it, that was some of the worst times of his life. You know, my dad came over here, we came over here, you know, undocumented. My dad was flipping burgers at Burger King, and he still says it was better over here because of the opportunities that we would eventually have and because of what he could provide for us. Back there, you couldn't even get jobs. We came here because my mom's sister had come over here previously, and she helped some people get over here. I have family in France, Portugal, Spain, Holland, and we chose to come here, and I'm really glad we did. See, the community here, there's nothing like it. After we got here, a few years later, 2004, we had a family emergency and my dad had to go back. Now this, of course, was pretty complicated because we weren't citizens yet, so leaving the country was one story, but coming back was a whole other one. And 2 years later, my mom had to follow. We didn't know what to do then, but one thing we were sure was that it still wasn't a good idea for me and my siblings to follow them. Because Cape Verde at the time, still not a very good place to grow up. We could end up right back where we started, at a dead end, and everything we did would have been for nothing. Being separated from my parents was really tough. I was so sad to the point where I blocked out all my feelings. And I just bottled things up. I acted like everything was fine. You know, I told you earlier I played soccer. Some of my close friends from here introduced me to soccer, and as soon as I started playing, it was like I just lit a fire. Suddenly I was playing 2-3 hours a day all the time. Back then I thought it was because I really liked soccer. Now I really do like soccer. It's awesome. I love it. I still play it all the time. I still train all the time. It's a force of habit, but I think then what I was doing, I was getting everything out. I had so much pent-up aggression and sadness that it helped me get it out. And it all happened here at this community. Kids I grew up here introduced me to art, which I'm trying to make a living out of now. Introduced me to soccer, which helped me stay on track. You know, high school, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't going to parties, I was just playing soccer and hanging out with my friends every day. And that's important, because even without my parents, this community still got me where I am today. Now, the worst thing about my situation is that I wasn't the only one, and I'm still not. There's still more people coming in this situation. And I've seen other kids who are in my situation but don't have the proper documents. My parents made sacrifices for me. I was able to get my green card, and a few months ago I was able to get my citizenship, finally. You know, since I've been in Boston, I've met a lot of different people, immigrants and people who grew up in the country alike. And I've just seen how different it can get when you go from place to place. That's when I really realized there's no place like this community. I've seen some kids who can't move forward in life. I don't know if any of you understand what it's like when you just want to be able to do something. I know kids that just want to go to school or do what other kids are doing, and they can't. You really don't know what to do with yourself. I love playing soccer. And I love school. I can go to school. I can do my art. I can get a job. I know a lot of kids who don't have the proper documentation. The only thing we can really do together is hang out and play soccer. And soccer's fun and all, but you can't get anywhere with that. The reality is, the system's broken. So it's been, what, 12 years now. I've been separated from my parents this whole time. I've gotten to see them 3 times, spread out across the entire 12 years. So about every 4 years I've gotten to go back and see them. Now the law says after 10 years, because they overstayed their visas, they would be able to come back. Since then, both my parents have applied for visas, and neither one of them got approved. Luckily, I got my citizenship, and I'm over 21, so I can put them in a petition. And then a few months later, Trump is president, and he's banning people from the U.S. And my parents they're more scared than they've ever been. So everything we're working towards, we've been working towards getting in here for 12 years. And now we're scared it might not even happen if too much more time passes by. I hope you can understand through even that bit of my story how important it is to keep this community, for everyone to stick together. I was raised by the people in this community. When my parents were around, other people were helping out with resources, even if I didn't have the money to afford something. And it got me where I am. I mean, my life's not complete yet, but I'm on the right track. Point being, this community has always been a sanctuary to me. I've always thought of it that way. And I think it's extremely important that we keep it that way. Because when kids are at a dead end, you know, that's when things start getting bad. When you tell them they can't move forward, often kids tend to move backwards. We have safe schools, it's a safe town, there's safe churches. There really is no other place in the world like this. We could have gone to France, we could have gone to Portugal, we could have gone to Spain, we could have gone to Holland. And I thank God that we came right here to Amherst, Massachusetts. Thank you.
As a fellow Cape Verdean, I'm so proud of this young man. So, like I said, I've known him since he's way high and know his story. And just like he said, the town took care of him and many others, and we have others in the community. So the hope is that we will continue to take care of our community members, regardless if they're documented or undocumented, you know, rich, poor, gay, straight, whatever. Let me take care of our community. Thank you, Mom. Positive. Thank you to all for your testimonials. Now we want you to get to know your neighbor. So, we've heard from our neighbors from around, but you probably haven't heard from your neighbor sitting next to you. I know probably you know the person sitting next to you. So if you know the person sitting next to you, turn around, go back and just introduce yourself to your neighbor, find out who he, she, them are, and just make those connections. It's important that we know each other.
And we have to combat efforts to coerce localities to carry out unlawful acts, like racial profiling, like holding someone in jail for an indefinite period without a charge. I don't know how many of you read this report out, but there's a memorandum circulating in the White House about separating children from their parents if they're apprehended at the border to make everybody's lives more miserable in an effort to dissuade people from thinking of coming here to begin with. That is just cruel. That is cruel, that is unconscionable. I cannot believe that anybody in any White House, I don't care what their political philosophy is, will say that. I want to remind everybody, that we had passed in the Senate a bipartisan immigration reform bill. It was far from perfect. Far from perfect. But it would have avoided a lot of the concerns that we're dealing with right now. It passed in a bipartisan way in the Senate, and this is the only time you're going to hear me say something nice about George W. Bush, he even said he was going to sign it, right? But John Boehner in the House decided that we would not bring this to the floor for a vote, and so it died. And as a result of that, we are in the mess that we are in right now. And so let me close by just simply saying this to everybody here. I am proud that the United States is a nation of immigrants. I am proud of my Irish immigrant history and my Polish immigrant history. I am proud that we live in communities where we can learn from one another, where diversity can still be celebrated. I'm proud to represent all of you, and I will have your back. You know, if people are let me tell you, we're gonna fight back. We'll use the courts. We will put every roadblock in place to prevent him from passing laws that would punish cities and towns and communities or universities that do this. I mean, this is, you need to know that we will be there for you. But I am proud to be here with all of you. You give me hope, and thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for leading this resistance here. Thank you.
We do a good job voting in this town. We were a little worried when we lost Congressman Olber, right? But we got a good replacement. Okay, so I just want to reiterate how important it is for our congressional and Senate delegation to be supporting our efforts locally and at the state level. Locally with Sanctuary, and at the state level with the Safe Communities Act. We have to make this be a local fight back, and we're so glad that our elected officials at the federal level have our back. So thank you again, Congressman. So State Secretary Eldridge is going to come up and share with us a little bit about the Safe Communities Act and how we can work together to get that passed. Nice. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm State Senator Jamie Eldridge, and this is a tremendous turnout. Thank you so much to Caroline and everyone for inviting me to talk about the legislation I filed, the Safe Communities Act, which would make Massachusetts a sanctuary state. So I want to say hello to my leader, here, Mr. President. Hello, sir. How are you? I want to thank Representative Solomon Goldstein Rose for being here, and it's always great to see my old friend Ellen Story as well. And by that I mean we served for a long time together. So I'm not going to talk too long because I know we want to get into the breakout groups, but I really do want to say that how lucky you are to have Congressman McGovern, and I'm not going to repeat too much of what he said, but I do want to say that, yes, we have an incredible congressional delegation statewide, but just last week, I got a letter from Congressman McGovern, the only congressman in the delegation, to send a letter to me in support of the Safe Communities Act. So I really want to thank him for doing that. I think it sends a very strong message that whether you're a congressman or woman, or a municipal official, or a community leader, or someone who is undocumented or Muslim American, you have a voice in making sure that we send a message to President Trump, but we also make sure that every single community is safe. And that's really what the Safe Communities Act legislation is about. So the legislation is actually not really that new. I've filed it for the past 4 years. Then it was known as the Massachusetts Trust Act. And we added some provisions because of President Trump's executive orders and what we were expecting to happen given a number of his campaign pledges. So what the legislation does is it first of all levels the playing field for both legal residents and those who are undocumented, those without papers, to make it clear that when the police detain someone for whatever violation or alleged crime, that they are not collaborating with ICE agents, and that unless there is probable cause for that person committing a crime, they should be treated the same way as anyone who is a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident. That's proven to be a little difficult to explain, and I'm guessing most people here already understand it, but it's very clear to send a message that we don't want our local or state police to be enforcing immigration law. We have federal officials who are enforcing immigration law. However poorly and disturbing they are doing that, we don't want our local and state police who are enforcing federal immigration law. And representing a district that is fairly diverse, and represent a Metro West district with a large Latino population, is that we want to make sure that no matter what community you are part of, that you feel safe to call the police if you're seeing a crime in your neighborhood. And by bringing in local or state police to enforce immigration law, you're virtually guaranteeing that those communities will not trust the police and therefore will not be calling the police if there's a crime going on in the neighborhood. So that's the first part of the legislation. The second part, due to President Trump's xenophobic attacks on Muslims and Muslim Americans, is it prohibits any state resources, including the Registry of Motor Vehicles, from providing a database of information to the federal government to create a federal Congressman McGovern talked about just one person in his district, a doctor originally from Iran, and the impact that had in his district. And we've really seen how President Trump's ban on just 7 Muslim-majority countries has had an absolutely cruel and inhumane impact across this country, especially in Massachusetts, where we have so many students and foreign-born residents. So it's making sure that if President Trump accelerates that to the next level of creating a so-called Muslim registry, that Massachusetts will not provide resources or a single dime of taxpayer dollars to support that effort. In reaction to a disturbing actions by some of our county sheriffs, not in this area, but in the southeast part of Massachusetts, who are deputizing their sheriffs or their law enforcement employees to act as immigration agents. And so this bill would prohibit that action that unfortunately some county sheriffs are doing. And the last part makes sure that if someone is detained by ICE, perhaps for a violation related to immigration law, that they are told, they are informed that they have a right to counsel to make sure that they can try to get access to legal representation in an environment where many of them are being very unfairly targeted. So that's the fourth provision. So I just want to go back to what Eduardo had said, and I just want to say every single person who testified, I arrived here about 40 minutes ago, was incredibly powerful, and I absolutely agree. As those who spoke today, those in the audience, we really need you to come to the State House to testify in support of this bill when there's the hearing. He is absolutely right that unfortunately in Massachusetts, although we're one of the most liberal states in the country, one of my frustrations as a progressive Democrat is unfortunately our legislature is not as progressive as you would think. And so we really need your voices and to make sure to get the word out across the state, maybe to friends and family that live in other parts of the district that are not as progressive in this area, and have the same values as myself, as the Senate President, as Representative Goldstein Rose, as Congressman McGovern. And so making sure to spread the word. There is a very powerful coalition, the Safe Communities Act Coalition, that I serve as the lead. The House sponsor of the bill is Representative Juana Matias, who is a woman whose parents were undocumented immigrants from the Dominican Republic. She's a new state representative for Lawrence. So we are leading this effort, and I just want to thank everyone for this tremendous turnout. This is the biggest turnout I've seen speaking across the state about this bill. So thank you so much. And
Thank you, State Senator Eldridge, for leading the way for the whole state. I just want to bring it back a little more locally and just give a quick top-line notes on what the bylaw says that was filed on February 28th. And a number of the people that signed that bylaw are here. Raise your hand if you're one of the signers of the petition. I see. There we go, yeah. And the petition that was filed to create the law also. So that is basically a local version of the Safe Communities Act. So it will ban the town of Amherst from participating in the Muslim registry. It will prevent our local law enforcement from working with ICE and being deputized to be Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It also bans them from asking about your status if you do go into an police interaction. There's a lot more to it, but it's very comprehensive. It's one of the strongest sanctuary bills that's been put forward, and that will be going before the Select Board and then before town meeting. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we get support for that bill also.
Very good.
Thank you very much. As you guys all know, this is a group that came together, and this is not the end of us doing, all of us doing this type of work. You may notice there's a few people going around with baskets with house of worship, so we pass the hat. So we're hoping that, if you have a couple of dollars in your pocket that you can throw in there, so that we can create banners and copies and posters and pretty much, support some of that. A lot of people have already donated from their own pockets, so we appreciate them doing that. But if you can, just throw some change that you may have in your pockets to help continue to support this cause, we would highly appreciate it. So as the folks go around, just throw a couple of dollars in there. Next, we are about to recognize some of our local community members and politicians who are staying here in support and now are also bearing witness to this amazing event. Senator Jamie Aldridge said that this is the biggest group that he's seen. So Amherst, we do it right and we do it big. So let's have another round of applause. And we gotta harness this energy and keep it going because this, like I said at the beginning, resistance is paramount. So I would like to call Ms. Susan Thurbridge to come up here and talk about some of our folks we have here.
Berge, and I'm part of the sanctuary group here in Amherst, and work with Climate Action Now and the Amherst NAACP. And I'd like to invite our local officials and state officials who are here to come up at this point and stand here together. So I'd like to invite Ellen Story to come on up, and Paul Bockelman, our town manager. Our Amherst Select Board members, Connie Kruger and Andy Steinberg. Our Human Rights Commissioners, Matthew Charity, Sid Ferrara, and Savan Melis Lund, to come up, please. And I'd also like to acknowledge Solomon Goldstein Rose was here earlier. Don't believe he's still in the house, but he was definitely present. So, and most importantly, Stan Rosenberg. So we appreciate your presence here today as you bear witness to the truth that's being spoken in this sanctuary. We want to acknowledge that our town officials, including our select board, town manager, and police chief, all took an early public stand, calling upon Amherst to be a safe and welcoming community. We want to thank you very much for being here today and for standing in front of this hall. And we really appreciate the steps you've taken so far and very much look forward to you standing with us in the struggle to come, being here in great support as we resist, defend, and build our sanctuary movement. Oh, yeah, yeah. And yes, we have wonderful school committee members who will have their moment shortly. So this is the beginning of our fight, and we know in Western Massachusetts, we always do what we set out to do. So thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, all town officials. I'm doing like double, triple duty here. Next, we will invite Mr. Russ Vernon-Jones will come up and... Oh, next, okay. So we will invite Mr. Rick Last to come on up and talk.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Last, and I'm ex-Fort River teacher, and I've worked on some new organizations with this, and I really am kind of moved. I feel part of something much bigger. This gives me hope, and we in Amherst, we are proud of our schools. And, we couldn't be more proud than the actions that our schools are taking right now to protect our vulnerable students and families, namely the resolutions eliminating the rights of undocumented students. We have here standing in front of you representatives from all the schools in Amherst. I would like to introduce them. But I also want to, people who work in the Amherst schools in any capacity, while I'm doing the introduction, just to stand up, because anybody up here, but anybody else connected with that. So up here we have our superintendent, Mike Morris. I'll just say them all, and then give him a big round of applause, and then I'm going to invite Vera up to speak. And we have Mark Jackson, the principal of the high school. And the middle school, Patty Bodie, the principal, sends her regrets she couldn't be here, and Ben leaving, or love him, I'm not sure. Kelly is here as a teacher from the middle school. We have Derek Shea, the principal of Clark County. Diane Chamberlain also is out of town from Fort River School, and Ruthie Killow-Hill is here, the counselor at Fort River. Nick Caffey is here from Walker, and we have school committee people. We have Anastasia Ordonez. Before I get to school committee, we have Lisa. I knew I wouldn't get that out. Desjardins from Pelham School, principal. And we have Eric Nakajima, Trevor Baptiste, and Anastasia Ordonez here for the school committee. Oh, yeah, Vera, I'm going to introduce. Okay. And Mary Beth. Okay, this is really incredible. So sad. I have to feed my meter. I'll be right back. Okay, but right now I'd like to introduce Vera Dwagmany-Cage, who will talk about the resolution a little bit. And thank you. Vera?
I'd like to call up the interim superintendent, Dr. Morris. Woo! My name is Vera Dwagmany-Cage, and I want to acknowledge the architects of the resolution. There was a subcommittee, and that would be Anastasia Ordonez and Eric Nakajima. And I want to say that, you know, we're known to be divisive at times, but this was one vote, one resolution, one motion that we stood united, we stood strongly together, and it was a unanimous vote. I'm positive that every single member of the school committee, and the ones that are here presently, Dr. Baptiste, Anastasia Ordonez, and Eric Nakajima, we all have our immigration stories. All of our families have immigration stories. Some are closer and more present than others, but we all have a story. I want to read, first of all, the preamble to the resolution, just a piece of that, and know that we mean every single word. That the Amherst Pelham Regional School Committee is committed to the success of every student in each of our schools. The other highlight I want to say is that the committee believes that the physical safety and emotional well-being of all children in the district and ensuring that our schools are safe and inviting for all students and their families are paramount to students being able to achieve. The district does not tolerate any form of discrimination, harassment, or bullying.
Yeah. Right.
Most importantly, it establishes a very high threshold when ICE may want to enter our school building. Ultimately, it says that ICE would need to go through this person right here standing next to me and our school attorney. And now I'd like to have our interim superintendent, Dr. Morris, say a few words. Hire him, superintendent.
I'll be brief. I know there's many things to get to. I think I just want to say 4 things. The first thing is that our schools will support all students and all families from all nations, not all nations minus 7 nations. We mean all nations. We also support all students, no matter how they identify or which bathroom they want to use. And Amherst, third, as Ms. Domani just read in the resolution, we support all students regardless of their documented or undocumented status. They are all ours, our families are all ours, and we are here to support them regardless of paperwork or other things. We are people, and we support children and their families. That's what we do in our schools. And the final thing I'll say is that we are educators, and it's our job to educate our students and families to know their rights. We have done that, we will continue to do that. As things continue to change, we communicate with our families and students, and we want to make sure that not only are we supporting them in our schools, we're supporting them in our community to know exactly where their rights are and push them to the furthest extent of the law. Thank you very much for having me.
School officials, school committee, and they've done an amazing, amazing job with that resolution for our school. So give them another round of applause. And I think Dr. Moore has been lifting weights, so when the ice comes through, he's the muscle. Next, we will have Mr. Russ Vernon Jones, who will come and introduce our faith leaders.
Please come up. We have an amazing diversity of faith groups and communities and leaders in our town. A great many of them have spoken out publicly in behalf of Amherst being a sanctuary community. Some of them are able to be with us today. And the Reverend Tom Simon will make a brief statement, but I want you to listen carefully to how diverse the group is, how diverse and inclusive the group of faith leaders is, whose names he reads.
Welcoming the stranger in our midst is a common thread that cuts across many of our faith traditions. As faith leaders, we stand committed to helping to create a welcoming, safe, inclusive, and hate-free community. We stand against efforts that seek to divide us. We redouble our commitment to love and to the values of freedom, justice, and equality that bind us as a community. We will seek to protect those whose security and well-being may be threatened. The following faith leaders in our community publicly affirm their support for the town of Amherst being a sanctuary community. Those who could not be with us this afternoon send their regrets and best wishes for the important work we are now doing. Institutional affiliations are listed here for purposes of identification. The individual support of these faith leaders does not necessarily represent a position yet taken by their congregations or institutions. This list includes both ordained clergy and lay leaders. The Reverend Vanessa Cardinale, South Congregational Church, UCC. Reverend Betty Lou Carthen, Goodwin Memorial AME Zion Church. Sister Claire Carter, Leverett Peace Pagoda. Rabbi Edward Feld, member Jewish community of Amherst. Rabbi Aaron Fine, UMass Hillel. Reverend Cynthia Fredo, Unitarian Universalist Society of Amherst. Frank Gaddy, Mount Toby Friends Meeting. Rhonda Gordon, Vision Keeper, Hope Community Church. Reverend Vicki Kemper, First Congregational Church, UCC. Reverend Byung-Moo Lee, Wesley United Methodist Church. Naz Mohammed, Hampshire Mosque. Reverend Greg Mosel, First Baptist Church of Amherst. Reverend Margaret Sawyer, UCC Pioneer Valley Worker Center. Reverend Paul Sarantino, Amherst College. Reverend Tom Simon, Rector Grace Episcopal Church. Reverend Steve Wilco, Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Ann Zimmerman, Newman Center. This list is not exhaustive. The names keep coming in, so. Naz Mohammed to lead us in a short prayer, perhaps.
Greetings and peace.
Everyone was standing.
Greetings and peace. I'm going to recite a short surah from the Quran, which is the opening chapter. It is called the opening. And I'm just going to say it in Arabic and then give a little summary about it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. This is the opening of our holy book, the Quran, and it is a supplication from His creation for guidance from the Almighty. And it's just a chapter of 5 verses, and the rest of the Quran, which is 114 chapters, is a response from His guidance. And one of the guidance that has sustained Muslims and myself in particular during this turbulent time is the fact that everything is according to God's plan. And we may not understand it, and I think we have understood because we've all responded in kind to what is going on and reaffirming humanity and that we all belong with each other. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have Ms. Caroline talk a little bit about our strategy.
Thank you. Also, someone asked who I was earlier. My name is Caroline Murray, and I live here in Amherst. I've lived here since 1983, and I have family, extended family status also that lives in this community. I'm a member of Coming Together and a longtime organizer and part of this team. So thank you. We kind of don't have enough time to do the breakout groups, but we're still going to try. Greenfield College try. Yeah. And so quickly, what is our strategy? We've been mentioning this all night, right? So passing laws is the first step, right? So we have our local bylaw, we have our state sanctuary bill. That's one group that's going to be working on advocacy. There's a lot of work to do for that. The second sort of strategy that we're employing is, again, resistance. So we're going to have a group meet very briefly and talk about that, maybe set your next follow-up meeting. And then our third strategy, again, is creating safe harbor. And those three things really work all together. We can't do one without the other.
So now we have, this is the section where it's a little bit of entertainment, but you know, it is hopefully get you to move a little bit and get you to enjoy yourself. With us, we have a duo, someone who one of them was part of the community, graduated from UMass, and was at one point, you know, brought up all of us. And then the second member is now part of me. Both of them came back. They're both spoken word artists, and they're also hip-hop, conscientious hip-hop artists. They have a following not only in the Valley, but throughout the states, if not nationally. And one of them just happens to be my little brother, my favorite little brother. Okay? So at this time, I would like to introduce Stem Blast and Cedar Light from Blast Energy.
Yeah. When I say who's America, we say our America. Who's America? Who's America?
Who's America?
Yeah, those who can and want to stand, please do. Yeah. We the Americans we've been waiting for.
We don't want more war.
We want peace, love, and
universal law, universal health care.
And corporate welfare. Reparations for those enslaved.
Hell yeah.
No fracking nowhere.
Strength of the black bear.
First Nation heritage, Confederate flag.
Axe here.
Land gets a max here. Come through pay snacks
here.
here.
Make America hate again? That's the last year.
Of course, all lives matter. My
Black lives matter less. Put cameras on all your vests.
So we can watch you and all the rest. Do the right thing and they won't be massive protests. We vote yes. Free state college, fossil fuels abolished. Stop deceiving the people.
Teach them real knowledge.
Learn how to gain wealth and maintain health. Stop working for someone else and work for yourself. That's right. Put your fists up. Put your fists up. Put your fists up. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Say peace. Yeah. Say uplift. 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 Persist. 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 Resist. 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 That's right. They seem to think that racism defines America, but it's really one movement, right? One people. Put your ones up real quick. Come on.
So what you telling me? I ain't got a right to be free? I ain't got a right to be happy, a right to be me?
I ain't got a right to choose if and when I have a family, a right to marry,
a right to equal salary. What you spraying in the skies though?
I see those planes flying high, geoengineering,
So we got slow.
mass incarcerating the people.
The new Jim Crow.
We acting not cynical,
Saying no to GMOs.
we say yes to social justice. A social unrest will take over the Oval Office. We want to be prosperous, not just the 1%,
But the populace, hack your banks, where's anonymous?
we honor this commitment to Mother Earth. Stand with Standing Rock
Till I'm laying in the dirt.
We don't discriminate
Against any religion.
whether Muslim or Christian, Buddhism or Hinduism. Listen, put your ones up.
Put your ones up. Ones up, ones up, ones up. Resist.
Resist.
Uplift.
Uplift.
Persist.
Persist.
Resist.
Resist.
Uplift.
Uplift.
Persist.
Persist.
Resist.
Resist.
Uplift.
Uplift. Yes, indeed. Yo, my name's Tim Bless.
And see the light.
We are Blessed Energy, man. We rock with y'all. If you just put that down real quick, right? So listen, man. We stand in solidarity, right? And so we know that we gotta have each other's back. So I'm gonna talk to you all real quick about certain groups of folks that are on the front line, the most vulnerable people. That's what the Love Army's about, right? So when I say these folks, I want y'all to say, we got your back. Muslims,
We got your back.
women,
We got